What happens when everyone is right together? Every model agreed, every signal aligned, every decision felt justified. And yet, that collective certainty became the system's greatest weakness. To understand why being right together can be dangerous, we need to look at how consensus forms in modern finance. Shared data, shared incentives, and shared frameworks create alignment. When everyone uses similar tools and interprets the same signals, agreement feels like confirmation rather than coincidence. Institutions move confidently within this consensus. Risk assessments match across firms. Strategies converge around the same conclusions. When outcomes reinforced expectations, confidence deepened. Being aligned felt safer than being different. Markets rewarded this behavior. Capital flowed toward consensus strategies. Predictability attracted scale. Deviation appeared risky because it challenged what everyone else believed. Agreement became its own signal of safety. Regulators saw reassurance in alignment. If institutions reached similar conclusions independently, the system appeared coherent. Oversight frameworks assumed diversification of decision-making. Few questioned whether agreement itself could become a source of fragility. But consensus compresses variation. When everyone reaches the same conclusion, alternative paths disappear. The system loses its internal checks. Confidence grows not because risks are reduced, but because they are shared. Early signs were subtle. Small shifts produced large collective reactions. Liquidity moved abruptly when assumptions changed. Alignment that once smoothed outcomes began amplifying adjustment. Being right together meant being exposed together. This was the opening paradox. Consensus reduced uncertainty, but also eliminated disagreement. And without disagreement, systems lose their ability to test assumptions before reality does it for them. Because when everyone is right together, no one is left to be wrong early. As consensus deepened, it began shaping how information was filtered. Signals that confirmed shared beliefs moved quickly. Signals that challenged them slowed or disappeared. Agreement became the default lens through which data was interpreted. Institutions adjusted their internal processes. Risk discussions shortened when conclusions matched peers. Dissent required justification. Alternative scenarios felt unnecessary when outcomes appeared consistent across the system. Confidence grew not from independent verification, but from mutual reinforcement. Markets amplified the effect. Strategies clustered tightly. Price movement validated alignment. When everyone reached the same conclusion, liquidity felt abundant, until it suddenly wasn't. Consensus created depth during calm and fragility during transition. Regulators observed coherence. Models produced similar results. Stress indicators aligned. Oversight assumed diversification where agreement existed. Shared conclusions felt like strength rather than concentration. This environment discouraged early challenge. Questioning consensus carried reputational cost. Being wrong alone felt worse than being wrong together. Alignment protected individuals, even as it exposed the system. Early distortions appeared quietly. Correlations rose across assets thought to be independent. Liquidity vanished briefly during minor adjustments. Each event resolved quickly, reinforcing belief that consensus remained valid. The deeper transformation was cultural. Agreement replaced inquiry. Confidence replaced curiosity. The system became efficient at executing shared beliefs, but poor at testing them. This is how consensus becomes dangerous. It does not suppress intelligence. It synchronizes it. And when intelligence moves together, it removes the friction that once slowed mistakes. Because systems fail less often from ignorance than from agreement that goes unchallenged. The conflict emerges when consensus meets a shift it cannot interpret quickly enough. Conditions change slightly, then unevenly. Models still agree, but outcomes begin to diverge. What once felt certain now feels brittle. Institutions sense a strain immediately. Decisions that relied on shared assumptions start producing unexpected results. Risk appears simultaneously across positions designed to offset each other. When everyone adjusts at once, protection turns into pressure. Markets respond sharply. Liquidity evaporates in the same places it once concentrated. Prices move faster than analysis. Participants realize too late that consensus removed the very diversity that once absorbed shock. Being right together becomes being exposed together. Confidence erodes unevenly, not all at once, but in pockets. A few actors move first, breaking alignment. Others follow rapidly, not because fundamentals demand it, but because consensus has fractured. The system pivots abruptly from unity to reflex. Regulators face a familiar dilemma intensified by agreement. Oversight assumed independence of judgment. Intervention tools were designed for isolated weakness, not synchronized reaction. Acting broadly risks reinforcing alignment. Acting narrowly misses the source of stress. Public trust weakens quietly. There's no clear error to blame, no obvious miscalculation. Instead, failure appears systemic, emerging from decisions that were individually sound but collectively fragile. This is the heart of the conflict. Consensus removes internal resistance. It allows systems to move quickly, but leaves no buffer when direction changes. Stability depends not on agreement, but on disagreement occurring early and often. When everyone believes the same thing, the system loses its ability to correct itself before reality intervenes. And reality never waits for consensus to adjust. The reckoning arrives when the system recognizes that agreement is not the same as safety. Consensus felt efficient, reassuring, and intelligent, but removed the friction that once protected against collective error. In response, priorities begin to shift. Institutions rediscover the value of dissent. Risk discussions widen. Alternative scenarios regain legitimacy, even when they complicate decision-making. Being different is no longer treated as irresponsible. It is treated as informative. Risk management evolves accordingly. Models remain useful, but they are stress-tested against disagreement rather than alignment. Assumptions are challenged deliberately. Preparedness focuses on how behavior diverges under pressure, not just how it converges under calm. Markets adjust gradually. Confidence becomes less synchronized. Strategies spread out. Liquidity becomes less concentrated in shared beliefs. Stability returns through dispersion rather than agreement. Regulators adapt as well. Oversight frameworks begin accounting for behavioral alignment as a risk factor. Uniform conclusions raise questions instead of reassurance. Diversity of response becomes a signal of resilience. For the public, trust rebuilds cautiously, not because systems promise certainty, but because they demonstrate awareness of their own limits. Disagreement is no longer hidden. It is acknowledged as part of strength. Looking back, what happens when everyone is right together reveals a simple truth. Systems do not fail because individuals are wrong. They fail because no one is allowed to be wrong early enough to prevent collective damage. Resilience is not built on consensus. It is built on disagreement that arrives before reality enforces it. So, what do you think? Are we repeating the same mistake again? What